Good day to all of you. This is a research from Bulhan Sites and Services Project Elementary School, Silang, Cavite. Leadership attributes of principals and teachers' performance in selected schools in Silang District, DepEd, Cavite. Authors are Mr. A.C. Abestado and yours truly, Eroliza E. Rogacion. Introduction and Rationale. Education and educational theory are constantly evolving. New curriculum and new methods of improving the educational program offered to students are always the forefront of educational discussions. One of the most fundamental concepts to improve a school is by improving teacher motivation, which can be largely affected by feelings about the school or the environment provided at the school. By Evans, 1997, Hunter, Boykin, and Evans in 1995. Teachers have the power as a group and as individuals to greatly influence a school's environment. It is very important for educational leaders to be aware of factors that affect teachers' performance and how they may affect student achievement. Principals have the power to influence the teacher's performance in their school by the actions or daily practices they exhibit. Hunter, Boykin, and Evans, 1995, Lester, 1990, and Rhodes, Neville, and Allen, 2004. Introduction and Rationale. Principal leadership and teacher morale are not appreciated or are overworked, thus causing low teacher performance. On the other hand, some teachers with a high morale level may say their principal is very supportive or that they are able to teach instead of having to perform an abundance of clerical tasks. In addition to the many roles of the position, principals must also understand they have a tremendous influence on the performance of the teachers. Research questions. This study will examine the relationship of principals' leadership, attributes, and performance of the school teachers of selected schools district in Silang. The leadership attributes of the principal was determined by the Leadership Practices Inventory, LPI 2003. Teacher performance was determined by the Purdue Teacher Opinionaire, PTO 1972. The study will look at the correlation between principal leadership attributes and teachers' performance using the two surveys. The correlation of the leadership attributes of the principal to the teacher's performance triggers the researcher to conduct this study. Here are the research questions. Specifically, the study will seek to answer the following. What is the profile of the administrator and teachers in terms of age, gender, educational attainment, length of service, specialization? How do the respondents perceive the principal's leadership attributes? What is the performance rating of teachers based in their IPCRF? Is there a significant relationship between profile factors and leadership attributes in the teacher's performance? As sampling, the place of the study is at Silang District, DepEd, Cavite. The respondents of this study should include all the teachers and principals of the 7 selected schools. The faculties of these 7 schools contained a combined 471 teachers and principals. The sample for the proposed study consisted of all respondents from these 471 teachers and principals. 11% of the teachers are in the first year of teaching. 54% have 1 to 10 years experience. 23% have 11 to 20 years experience, and 12% have more than 20 years of experience.
For the data gathering methods, the following procedure shall be observed by the researcher in the light of the study. Number 1. Secure permission and endorsement from the school district supervisor and from the 7 selected schools in Silang District, DepEd, Cavite. Number 2. When the research is approved and the district supervisor's signature is obtained, the principals will submit their faculty list and will be called to discuss the process for distributing the surveys. For number 3, distribute leadership practices inventory or the LPI and the Purdue Teacher Optionnaire or the PTO. Number 4 is to retrieve the Leadership Practices Inventory or the LPI and the Purdue Teacher Optionnaire or the PTO. Number 5, tabulate and analyze the gathered data. Number 6, conduct interview for further validity of the responses. Number 7, interpret data and formulate the findings, conclusions, and recommendations. And for the research instrument, the instruments to be used in the study were the Purdue Teachers Optionnaire or the PTO and the Leadership Practices Inventory or the LPI. The PTO was developed in the 1960s and had been used in many studies over the past decades, according to Hochard 2005, Hunter, Boykin, and Evans in 1995, and Bella in 2001. The LPI was developed by Koses and Posner and is in its third edition in 2003. Many researchers have used the LPI for the collection according to the Leadership Challenge in 2007. The PTO, according to Bente and Rempel in 1972, consists of 100 questions ranked on 4-point Likert scale. The 100 items relate a teacher's morale in 10 areas. The validity of the instrument was based upon the design purposes and specifically through content validity. Due to the age of the instruments, no permission for use was necessary. Copyright for this instrument had expired. It is also important to point out that this instrument was carefully analyzed to ensure its age would not hinder its validity. The language used in the survey was consistent with current educational language so that responses were not hindered by the age of the instrument. Here's an example research instrument that consists of the Purdue Teacher Optionnaire or the PTO and the Leadership Practices Inventory or the LPI. For the data analysis, the following statistical treatment shall be used to analyze the data and to ensure the validity and reliability of the results. So the data is encoded in MS Excel and computed using the statistics calculator. Frequency distribution, percentage, the mean, and the standard deviation are used to get the data needed for this study. It is also used to be able to find out the significance of the relationship of the principal leadership attributes and teachers' performance and to the IPCRF. The Pearson R is used to calculate correlation coefficients for the cumulative scores on both surveys, both the LPI and the PTO. The cumulative of each survey compared with each category of the other, and the comparison of each category of the two surveys. The Pearson R correlation coefficients will be then evaluated to determine if the results are statistically significant for each of the relationship that is evaluated on the hypothesis. So here is the proposed work plan of our research. So it consists of almost 6 months. So here are the following activities. Number 1, or in the first month, supplies and material preparation and acquisition for research. Number 2, reproduction and printing of survey forms will be done on the second month. Number 3, communication on the respondents of the research will be done along the third month and the fourth month. And then number 4, data gathering and analysis will be done on around later part of fourth month until the fifth month. And then finally, the interpretation of data gathered will be done in the sixth month. So here are the cost estimates or the projected expenses of our district-based basic research. So these are the different activities. For number 1, we have the supplies and material in the use of the research, which includes the materials. So examples of these are the bond papers and other printing materials that will be used on this research. For number 2, we have the domestic travel expenses on survey form distribution, which includes domestic travel expenses. And since the schools that are involved here is 7 schools, So these are the different quantities or the cost on each travel. So for number 3, we have the reproduction and printing of survey forms, which includes a reproduction, printing, and binding cost of the different survey forms. So here are the different, here's the breakdown of those reproduction expenses. For number 4, we have the communication expenses on respondents of the research, which includes communication expenses, so the load cards and the data allowance on the whole duration. And finally, for number 5, we have the food and other incurred expenses upon research, so which includes the food or the whole meal during the whole duration of the research. Here's the plan for dissemination and utilization of our basic research proposal. So initially, the dissemination and utilization of the study will begin in the third month, since the first month and the second month will be the acquisition of the different materials and the different printing of forms that will be used on this study. So these are the dissemination activities. So number 1, follow up on survey form accomplishment. So that will initiate or begin on the third month. Number 2, retrieve the leadership practices inventory or the LPI and the Purdue Teacher Optionnaire or the PTO, which will also be on the third month. Number 3, tabulate and analyze the gathered data that will be done on the fourth month. For number 4, conduct interview for further validity of the responses. So that will be done also on the fourth month up to the fifth month of the duration of this study. And then for number 5, interpret data and formulate the findings, conclusions, and recommendations. That will be done on the sixth and final month of this study. So this is our basic research proposal presentation. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day. God bless us all. Thank you.